said, we are continuing this series, The Spiritual Life. We are looking at your spiritual health. And this morning, I am so glad you're here because this might be a message that revolutionizes some of your lives spiritually. I want to talk about the number one thing you can do to grow spiritually. The number one thing you can look at to say, am I becoming more and more like Jesus? Because if you do this, you will gain traction in your life. But if you fail to do this, not only will you get stuck spiritually, but you will often begin to drift into unspiritual health. And that is not what we want. Now, I know some of you think, I know what he's going to say. I need to fast. If I fast every day, 40 days like Jesus, that's what I need to do. It's not fasting, although I believe you should fast on a regular basis. It's not that you should pray every day, but I think you should. It's not read your Bible for 25 minutes, 6 chapters every day, all the way through year after year after year, although I think that's a wonderful practice. It's not giving. But I think, and I believe, and I know biblically we're called to give. And later in this series, we're going to do a whole message on giving. But what we're going to talk about today, and what I believe is the number one thing that you can do to grow spiritually is this. The most important thing, the number one thing you can do to grow spiritually is to serve. It's to serve. When you serve others, you are most like Jesus. Because Jesus is the servant of all. And when you want to grow spiritually, you want to be like Jesus. It happens when you serve. So as we kicked off this series last week, we said we're going to look at these 5 areas. And we started last week with attend, and this morning we're going to look at serve. But these are the 5. Attend, serve, connect, give, share. Attend, serve, connect, give, share. And what I've learned is this. When I talk to people, when someone calls me up, says, life, I'm struggling, things aren't going well. Now, I'm not talking about dealing with an addiction. I'm not talking about dealing with some area of sin where you can't seem to find victory. I'm talking about when someone calls up and says, man, my finances are off kilter. Man, my relationships are really struggling. I don't know what to do no matter what I attempt and endeavor to be an influencer in my kids' lives or in my community. I never seem to make an impact. I can almost guarantee you, when I look close enough, that there at least is one, if not more, of these areas in their life that are deficient. Attend, serve, connect, give, share. One of those they are struggling with in some way, shape, or form. And serving is the most critical. Now, here's one thing I want to say at the very beginning. Serving goes beyond the 4 walls of the church. Okay? Serving goes beyond the 4 walls of the church. It's not just serve on a Sunday, although we hope you do that. It is serving in every aspect of your life. Because when we serve, we're most like Jesus. Here's what it says in Mark chapter 10. Jesus is speaking. He said, whoever would be great among you must be your servant. Whoever would be first among you must be the slave of all. It's not just within the context of the 4 walls of a church. It's in your whole life. And then Jesus goes on and says this about himself. He said, for even I, the Son of Man, came not to be served, but to serve. When you serve, you're most like Jesus. Jesus is our example for everything. He should be our example in how we live and what we do and how we treat people and how we interact with them. He ought to be our example. People say, I serve Jesus. I love the Lord. Do you serve? Well, no. Then you're not really being like Jesus. As a matter of fact, in case you think I'm just kind of making this up, Jesus has this encounter on one of his last times with his disciples before his crucifixion. And he washes their feet. It's an act of a servant. He's serving them. And then he says this. This is so important. I don't want you to miss this. This is what he says. He says, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I have set you an example. I, the master, have taken on the role of a servant. This is the example that you're to follow. We're all called to serve. Here's the fundamental truth that we're going to come back to this morning over and over again is this. If you cannot be like Jesus if you do not serve. You cannot be like Jesus if you do not serve. I don't care how much you pray. I don't care how many miracles you do. I don't care what gifts of the Spirit you operate in. I don't care how much you give. I am telling you, you cannot be like Jesus if you do not serve. Because Jesus said, this is the example, and I want you to go and do likewise. But here's the amazing thing. When you serve, you grow in Christ's likeness. When you serve, you are more and more like Jesus. It's the number one thing you can do to grow spiritually, to serve. So this morning, I want to look at 3 areas where you can serve. 3 areas where we're called to serve. 3 areas regardless of your relational status, regardless of your income status, regardless of your gender. 3 areas where we can all serve. And we can start today. Here's the first. Serve your family. Serve your family. Now, I just want to say to all the guys here, all the men, all the husbands, I am talking to you. Okay? Listen, your wife isn't your wife to be your maid. Your children aren't your children to be your little indentured servants until they can finally get to the age where they can leave the house. I know we think that. That's not the role of a husband and a father, but neither is it the role of a wife or a mother. And teenagers, listen to me. I know you think mom's there to make your bed. She is not. She is not. We're going to talk about parents in just a little bit. But here's the reality. We're all called to serve in our families. You say, Pastor, I'm not married. You have a mom. You have a dad. You have a brother. You have a sister. You have an aunt. You have an uncle, a grandmother, a grandfather. You have some family. And you can serve them. We're all called to serve. We're all called to serve our families. So I want to dissect a section of Scripture that deals with serving within the context of family. And it's found in Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 5. It starts by saying this: submit to one another out of fear and reverence for the Lord. Submit to one another out of reverence for the Lord. That word submit has the idea of to place ahead of, to rank above, or to rank yourself lower. It's really an active thing. It's not looking at someone and saying, you're better than me. It is actively saying, I will put myself beneath you. Do you remember when Jesus talked about if someone forces you to go a mile, go a second mile? If someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn them to the left cheek also. Remember that? If they ask for your cloak, you give them your staff, or whatever. I mean, all that. You remember that? It's the same idea. It's saying, I am actively going to put myself beneath someone. So here's the definition that I would use for submit. To put yourself after others. To put them before you. You are actively choosing to do that. So before Paul, who's writing to the Christians in Ephesus, before he gets into the family dynamics, he says, I'm making an overarching statement. Submit, put others before yourself. It's the same idea he wrote to the Philippians later on. He says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others, put others before yourself. Count them as more significant than yourselves. So Paul is setting the table. He's saying everyone needs to submit. They need to look at others as more important than themselves. Then he gets into the family dynamics. He says, wives, you want to know how you submit? You submit by putting your husband before yourself, putting yourself beneath your husband, just as you do to the Lord. Just the same way that you say, Jesus, you are the one that comes first. Wives, say to your husbands, you are the ones that come first. Then he goes on, husbands, you want to know how you submit to your wives? Here's how you do it, by loving them, the same way that Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Wife, you're more important than me. Everything I do ought to be to your benefit, to your betterment, to help you, to see you grow, to see you flourish, to see you accomplish God's plans and purposes for your life. Isn't that what Jesus does for the church? I want you to experience all and fulfill all that I've created you for. He gives himself up for you and for me. That's how we're to love our wives if we're husbands. Then he goes on, okay, he says, children, you want to know how you're to submit to your parents? By obeying them in the Lord, for this is right, by honoring them by saying, okay, if you ask me to do this, I don't understand it. I think it's weird. It doesn't make sense. None of my friends do it. But if you're asking me to do it, I'll do it. That's how you submit. That's how you serve in the context of being a child. And then he goes on, as a parent, you want to know how you submit, how you serve your children? Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Do not cause them to become angry. Instead, bring them up in the training and the instruction of the Lord. But it's all about serving, putting others before yourself. That's what we're called to do in the context of family. It can be simple. It could be as simple as saying, on a Sunday afternoon, guys, listen to me, on a Sunday afternoon, most guys, some of you wives might need to take notes on this as well. I will not watch the football game today. You want to watch Pride and Prejudice? Okay. Serve your wife. It can be that simple. It can be so simple. It can be as difficult as saying, I will take the money that I've been saving to buy this, that, or the other thing, and I'm going to give it to my wife. I'm going to give it to my children. I'm going to give it to my husband. I'm going to give it to my parents. Whatever the context. But it is about willingly putting them before you, putting yourself beneath them. That's what it means to submit. That's what it means to serve. So I want to give you 3 simple things that you can do. You can start this today in ways that you can serve practically in your family. Here's the first one. Ask what you can do to help. Ask. Teenagers, you don't realize what will happen. Your mother might fall down dead of a heart attack. Can I do that for you? Well, what? I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to cajole. I didn't have to threaten. Just ask, what can I do to help? Taking initiative helps cultivate a servant's heart. When you take initiative, when you ask, what can I do? What can I do? Don't wait. Just do it. Just ask, what can I do? Here's another one. Do something that often gets neglected. Don't wait till it becomes an issue. Don't wait till people get frustrated. Don't wait till the yelling and screaming. You never do anything around here. Just do it. Just do something that often gets neglected. Teenagers, don't wait till it becomes assigned as a chore. Just do it. Husbands, don't wait until your wife has a list that fills up the refrigerator. Just do it. Wives, if you know your husband likes a certain thing, just do it for him. Just do it. Help out. And here's the last thing. Do something that someone else normally does. Just do it for them. Go out and mow the lawn. Go out and clean the bathroom. Do something for someone that they normally do. Say, hey, can I make dinner tonight? And if they say that, let them, if they ask you, can I mow the lawn? Don't say, no. Say, oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you. They're trying to serve. They're trying to demonstrate a servant's heart. So teenagers, you have a responsibility. Listen to me. You have a responsibility to serve in your family, to serve your mom and your dad, your brothers and your sisters. What does that mean? It means honoring them. It means respecting them. It means listening to their advice even if you don't understand it, because believe it or not, they actually want what's best for you. I know. I was a teenager once. I was convinced my parents just wanted my life to be miserable. Now I have teenagers. I'm convinced that they think I want their lives to be miserable. But I don't. I want what's best for them. With your brothers and sisters, it means encouraging them, building each other up. It means that every time they open their mouth, you don't have to come out with a snarky, sarcastic comment and let them know how ridiculous what they just said was. Encourage them. Build them up. It's a huge way that you can serve in your family. Now, parents, now listen to me. Later on in the fall, I'm going to do a whole series on parenting, but I want you to understand something, moms and dads. This is so important. The number one responsibility of parents is this: to raise your children to know the Lord and release them to serve the Lord. That is the number one responsibility of parents. Yes, we want to keep them safe. Yes, we need to provide for them. All of that doesn't matter if They haven't been raised to know the Lord and released to serve the Lord. Because when it comes to parenting, you need to understand this. Parenting is about being an example of Jesus. It means you serve your children. It means you serve your children. You know what that means? It means being a parent is not about your identity as a mom or your identity as a dad. Being a parent is about their identity in Christ. Being a parent is not about your emotional well-being. It's about their spiritual lives. Being a parent is not about them growing up and being your friend. It is about them growing up and being a friend of God. That is the responsibility of a parent. And when we serve in our families, it is hard. It is hard because we often feel neglected and overlooked. So I just want to say something, not just in the context of parents, as a husband, as a wife, as a child, in any of those contexts. Here's what you have to guard against. Because once you start saying, what about what I need? You quickly move from serving to self-serving. Once you start saying that, but what about what I need? They don't care about me. You quickly move from serving them to being self-serving. And this is something everyone who's ever breathed wrestles with. As a matter of fact, here's Jesus as our example again. In Luke, he's about to go to the cross and be crucified. He says, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my emotional needs, not what I want, not what I think I deserve. Father, not my will, but yours be done. Once you start thinking about your needs, your emotional needs, you quickly move from serving to being self-serving. So we serve our families. The next one is this: serve your neighbors. Serve your neighbors. Now, what I mean by neighbors is pretty much everyone you come in contact with. Your coworkers. If you play sports, the kids on your sports team. If you're a parent of a child who plays sports, the other parents. It is your actual physical neighbors, people who live in your neighborhood, the neighbors that you like and the ones that you're praying will move. They put a for sale sign out and you rejoice. It's even them. It's the people you intersect with and interact with at the store. It's everyone you come in contact with. Those are your neighbors, and we're called to serve them. Here's what Peter says. He says, each one of you should use whatever gifts he has received to serve others. To serve others. You and I are called as followers of Christ to be an example of Christ and serve everyone that we come in contact with. So I want to give you some practical things that you can do in order to serve your neighbors, whether it's a physical neighbor or any of those other ways in which it's someone that we come in contact with. The order of these, the first and the last one, are critically important. The rest of them you can do in any order you want. But here's the first thing, and it's so important, and we fail to do this. Get to know them. Get to know them. How can you serve somebody that you don't know? How can you invest in someone when you don't even know their name? You don't know if they're married. You don't know if they have children. You don't know anything about them. You just see them drive by and you already have judged them in your heart because of the kind of car they drive. They're rich and they're snobby. They're broke and they're good for nothing and everything in between. Get to know them. So go over, introduce yourself. Ask them who they are. Ask them what's going on in their life. Ask them how their week is going. Once you do that, here's another thing you can do. You can pray for them. Now you know them. You know some things going on. Week's going all right, but mom's in the hospital. My son's struggling with school and academics. Start praying for them. Pray for them regularly and consistently. God, help them. God, open up an opportunity for them to experience your goodness in their lives. Pray for them. Then here's one. Give to them. Give to them. It might be that you see that they had a new baby. Go get a little gift and bring it. Knock on the door. You may see that they've just moved into the neighborhood. Go buy a pizza. Or better yet, go to the pizza place, get an empty box, get a gift card, put it in there and say, hey, just wanted to get you a pizza. I don't know when it'll be a good time for you, so go get it whenever it works. But give them a gift. Give them something. Yeah, if you know that they're part of an organization, maybe they're raising awareness for something. that they're passionate about, diabetes or something like that, and they're doing a fundraiser, just give to it. Just give a little bit to it. Here's why. Here's what the book of Proverbs says, the book of wisdom. It says, giving a gift can open doors. Giving a gift can open doors. You don't know, just that little act of kindness, that little gift opens the opportunity to grow in relationship with them. And here's another one. Contact them. Contact them. Send them a text. Write them a little note. Give them a phone call. Hey, how's it going with your son? How's it going with your mom? Did you watch the game yesterday? How are you doing? Just contact them. Let them know you're thinking of them. It opens up all kind of conversations and opportunities and an opportunity to serve. And then here's one, help them. Help them. 1 in 4 people live alone in our country. 1 in 4 people live by themselves. So you see somebody that is by themselves. You might not even know it, but their garbage cans are out by the road and the wind's blowing. Don't wait and say somebody will get it going. Help them out. Go shovel their walk when it snows. Here's one, the leaves are about to fall. Go rake your neighbor's yard. Just go rake it for them. Or if they're out raking, say, hey, let me help you out. Have great conversations, but help them. Here's another one. Have them over. Have them over to your house. Hey, we're having a barbecue. Come over. Let's watch the game. Let's come over and let's have dessert and coffee. Just come over and hang out. Let's have dinner. You invite people in, you have them over, and you get to know them, you can pour into them, you can find ways that you can serve them and show them the love of Jesus. And then the last thing is this, invite them. Invite them, maybe to church, maybe to a special gathering service that we're having, the Christmas candlelight service, a love and marriage event. Invite them into spiritual conversations. Invite them to an opportunity to intersect your lives about what matters most to you, which is your faith. But that one has to come last. The first thing is you have to get to know them. The last thing is to invite them. Otherwise, it just feels like a bait and switch. Oh, you just want to get to know me, and if I don't come to church, then I'm out. You do all these other things? Now, what's the common thread in all this? It's about them. Serving is about them. It's not about you. Once you make it about you, you lose the heart of a servant. You want to serve your neighbors? Make it all about them. Make it all about them. Here's what Paul writes in Colossians. Serve one another in love. The entire law is summed up in a single command. Love your neighbor as yourself. You want to be like Jesus? Serve. Serve your family. Serve your neighbor. The entire law, love your neighbor as yourself. How many of you know the names of your neighbors? I'm going to do a series next year, I think, called Love Where You Live. Do you love your neighborhood? Do you love those that are in close proximity to you? And the last thing is this, serve your church. Serve your church. We are called to serve within the context of our church community. It's something that we have a responsibility to do. Here's what Paul writes in Galatians. He says, let us do good to everyone, especially to those who are of the household of faith. We have a responsibility to serve within the context of our church. And I just want to say, as the pastor here, I am so proud of our church. We have a wonderful group of people who have servants' hearts. Someone crunched the numbers for me, and they said there are over 105 people who serve on a regular basis to help us do what we do week in and week out. That is awesome. That is fantastic. That means in order for us to do, remember last week we talked about attending. And when we attend together, we hear the word, we worship, we celebrate communion, we encourage each other. In order to do those things, it takes everyone doing their part. And there's so many of you who do that, and I am so grateful and thankful for that. Because it is a wonderful testimony to your hearts. But we are called to serve within the context of the church. And there are so many ways that you can serve. And here's the question that people often ask. How do I know where to serve? How do I know where to serve? Well, there's 3 things. Look at your gifting, your passion, and look for opportunity. Gifting, passion, and opportunity. Starting on next year, the beginning of the year, probably February, we're going to do a thing called Next Steps. It'll help you identify your spiritual gifts. It'll help you identify your passion. It'll help you understand your personality. It'll help you understand the opportunities and the places where you can serve. But you don't need to wait till then. What's your gifting? What's your passion? And look for opportunity. What are you gifted in? What are you passionate about? And then look for an opportunity. Look for an opportunity to get involved. It can't be an opportunity that you're made aware of. Someone comes up, taps you on the shoulder, and you go, God, I'm just looking for a place. Someone taps you on the shoulder, says, hey, would you be interested? And you say, I don't know, I need to pray about it. But the day before, you're praying, God, give me an opportunity. Show me where I should serve. Someone calls you up, says, hey, would you like to be involved? I don't know, I need to pray about it. Do you realize God is answering your prayer? But you're failing to see the opportunity. The other one is sometimes you just open your eyes and look around, and there are opportunities after opportunities after opportunities. See, you do not need to wait to be asked. You can identify an opportunity if you are looking. You don't need to wait to be asked. If you look, you'll see it. And if you see it, then be moved to meet that opportunity, to fill that opportunity. So for me, and for my wife, Jamie, we were talking and saying, hey, what does that look like for us? And so what we're going to do starting next year and every year after that for the foreseeable future, we're going to take in 1 month out of the year, for a full month, we're going to go downstairs in the children's ministry and we're going to lead kids' church. And it's going to be great because I looked and said, there's an opportunity because I don't want to just impact the lives of adults. I want our church to impact the lives of men, women, boys, and girls. And we look at it and say, this is a wonderful opportunity. Here's a place where we can come together and serve in our church in a different capacity. And I do just want to say, when we talk about serving your family, there's also power in serving together as a family. When you serve together, it has an impact. One of the things, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it on next week, as connect groups, that we serve together in connect groups. There's a power in that. But my wife and I are going to do that. Why? Because we looked and said, here's an opportunity. Here's a place that we can invest that will go beyond ourselves. When we invest in the lives of those kids, it has a huge impact. See, they may be future business leaders and politicians and pastors and missionaries. They will certainly be future wives and mothers and husbands and fathers. They will walk the hallways of schools and colleges and businesses. They will go places that I can never go. But investing in them allows me to shape the future. It allows me to have an influence 40 years from now that I'll never have if it's just about me and what I like to do, what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it. But if you look, you'll find opportunities. And it's wonderful. It is the best way. Investing in the children is the best way to leave a lasting legacy. I hope we all look at serving like that. Look for those opportunities. If it's in the children's area, great. I can't think of a better place to serve. It could be as simple as holding an infant, chasing around after a toddler and teaching them, praying for them. It could be working in the check-in area, just so a parent who's new feels settled that their child will be safe and secure. It could be helping to buy supplies so that kids who learn better, not just listening audibly or looking with visual learners, but they're tactile learners, and they have all those things that they need in order to learn that God loves them. Jesus died for them. He has a plan and a purpose for their life. But it's not just in the context of children's ministry. If you look for opportunities, you can find them. And I know you might look and say, well, it seems like they don't need help. Believe me, if it looks like it's full, it's not. If it looks like we have enough people, we don't. And as we continue to see more people come to the church, and we have to add a second service at some point, we need more people to say, I want to serve in the church. So here is the context in which Jesus spoke. He said, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. I am among you as the one who serves. I'm among you as the one who serves. In other words, what did I say at the very beginning? You cannot be like Jesus if you do not serve. You cannot be like Jesus. We just read Jesus' words, I am among you as the one who serves. You cannot be like Jesus if you do not serve. But when you serve, you become more and more and more like Jesus. That is the amazing truth. I just want to put up that verse one more time that I just read from Luke. The greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. I am among you as the one who serves. Do you want to be like Jesus? You need to serve. Would you stand with me?